Hello, Zuko here. If you don't know, my name is Jess, but I go by Zimmy on the internet because one time I was 15. Today I am trying to channel my inner Twilight vampire / Rosalie Hale because it is the beginning of Spooky Month. There's hair in my eyeball. Ah! You can't tell. I set my face with like a glittery dusting powder and I don't think any of the glitter is going to show up on camera. Can you see any of it? Can you see any of the glitter? Can you see the glitter? Today, I'm going to wrap up everything I read in September. Technically, September is not over as I'm filming this, but I want this out sooner rather than later. So, without further ado, let us jump right into all the things that I read in the month of September. There's a bug. Where to go? Okay. To stay on theme, I reread the whole fucking Twilight Saga. Okay, I just wanted to show you the sprayed edges that I did of my Twilight books. But they are the Twilight books. So, I reread Twilight, thinking I had been avoiding this reread for a long time because I was like, oh no, I'm gonna hate them and it's gonna make me sad because I have like nostalgia in my heart for them. I really liked this. I had a lot of fun. I was worried. I kept saying to myself, oh, in September I'm gonna reread Twilight, or at least I'm gonna try. I made it like an hour into September before I had to go pick it up and reread it. It just has such a place in my heart. Also, I feel like I should always preface, I guess, Twilight with the fact that the Eclipse tribe featured in the Twilight novels is a real tribe of people who is trying to move their land right now. So if you have been impacted at all by the Twilight books, if you've loved them, if you've bought any recently from like a store, if you've enjoyed them, consider donating. I will link down below or in a card. Consider donating to the Quileute tribe so that they can relocate, because none of the money that Stephenie Meyer has received from the Twilight books, which prominently feature a bastardization of their tribe, has gone to the tribe, so please consider donating if you are able. So the next book I've read, of course, was New Moon. I flew through this book, just like I did the first time I read it, because the first time I read it, I was like, I have to keep reading until Edward comes back. I know he's gonna come back, I just have to keep reading. God, these sprayed edges are so pretty. This time I flew through it because I was enjoying it. I wish I could say like anything else. Like, oh, I hated these now. I had a lot of fun reading these books. So I've rated these two 5 out of 5 stars, I think. Then I read Eclipse. I don't know. This one maybe isn't my favorite. I remember really enjoying it, but at this point I'm like, you know, it was fine. I don't know that a lot happened in this book except for like, it made my blood boil. The scenes where Jacob was being really forceful and forced himself onto Bella, and then her cop dad just like laughed at it. That I had to stop reading for a bit and calm down. And then when he like manipulates her into asking him to kiss her, that just, oh, I think I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. And currently, as we are speaking, I am reading Breaking Dawn. I did not realize that it took so long for like the final conflict to happen in this book. This is a 750-page novel, and it's not until about page 520 that the Volturi become involved at all. It's wild. Like, they're just not, it's not about that. It's about Bella getting pregnant, and then it's about Jacob for 200 pages, which wasn't as painful as I remember it being. Still wasn't my favorite. But then, yeah, it's about Bella being a vampire for a bit. And then finally it's like, oh, but the Volturi, and you're like, oh shit, fuck, I forgot about that. I'm having fun with this. I'm having a lot of fun with this. I love Bella as a vampire. I think that there are some very silly things in the vampire portions of these books, because the vampires seem to measure everything in like, in 1/32 of a second, and I'm like, why do you know that? Unless you knew specifically what amount of time a 37th of a second or 32nd of a second is, you wouldn't be thinking like that. It's just weird that they like constantly feel the need to tell you how long it took them to do something. And also they jump a stupid amount, and they're just like, oh, I jumped 100 feet and just flew into the air. And I just think that's so silly. I hate when like jumping is essentially flying. I don't know, that's just me. I also finally, and I say finally, but it's only been out for a year, I read Midnight Sun, which is Twilight from Edward's perspective. If you don't know the whole deal, this was being written like over a decade ago. And some of the chapters got leaked by someone that I think Stephenie Meyer had trusted with like proofreading chapters. And so she lost motivation to keep writing it. And it finally came out last year. I've seen like such mixed reviews on this book. Like I've seen people being like, I hate this, Edward was creepy, this was gross, and other people being like, yes, I loved this, like give me some shitty Edward. I loved this. I don't know. Everyone's like, oh, he's creepy, and I was like, I don't feel that way. Maybe there's something fundamentally wrong with me. Also, I need to spray these edges too. You want to watch me do that? Maybe I'll film it. But yeah, I read these. I read all of these. I wish that my Midnight Sun was the same size as the others, but it's not, and that's only mildly frustrating. Now on to the other things I read this month. I did read The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. I think I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. This is about a group of girls who decide to kind of take matters into their own hands when the year before a girl had been raped and nobody did anything about it. Like nobody seemed to care, and the girl got like bullied until she left town, which was brutal. I liked this book enough for what it was. I thought they were gonna kill the boys, and they didn't. Spoiler alert, which was like tragic. I hate adults who are evil for no reason. The principal of the school that these girls go to is a woman who threatens one of the girls for trying to like acknowledge rape victims, I guess, and that the school perpetuates rape culture. She threatens this girl to deport her grandmother. She's like, I know your grandma doesn't have like legal status here. It would be a shame if someone just tipped the cops off. She's the principal of the school, and she's mad because like the girls in this book go on like a sex strike where they just don't want to sleep with any of the guys, and the teacher's like, this is bad, this is wrong. They weren't breaking any rules. They just didn't want to acknowledge that men were probably, I can't stand evil adults for no reason in YA, because it's so common. Either like the parents just weren't involved and there was no adults, or the adults were like just evil for no reason and like one-dimensional. There was good like Christian representation in this book, which I liked. There was a Christian mom who left her original church to go become a pastor at a church that was more open-minded and accepting of everybody, and they were all really sex positive, so I appreciated that. But yeah, this book just wasn't my favorite. Lastly, as of now, I think it is the 26th of September as I'm filming this, I just finished reading Vampires Never Get Old, Tales with Fresh Bite, kind of put together by Zoraida Cordova and Natalie C. Parker. This has 11 stories, I think, about vampires. And again, it is a friendly reminder to me that no matter what the context is or like the content is, I don't like anthologies. It's so sad. There was one story I really liked in here. I think the one by Samira Ahmed. If I can find like a summary, what's it called? Contents. It is called A Guidebook for the Newly Sired Desi Vampire. And it is told like it is a program that newly sired Indian vampires wake up to, and it kind of tells them how to adjust to their new life and what's going on. It was so unapologetic and funny and good that that story stood out to me. I'm not saying any of the other stories are bad, but by the second half of most anthologies, I'm just like, are we there yet? Can it be done? And like, I really thought that maybe this one, I could try a vampire one. I really like vampires. And it still it didn't do it for me, except that story. There were a couple good stories that I really enjoyed, but I don't want to like list them in favorites to least favorites, because I don't think that the stories that I didn't love were because of the author as much as the placement of the book, because I will be really interested in the first couple stories in anthologies, and then like the last half I'm just like, no, I don't want to read anymore, so I just kind of stopped paying attention. So I'm not going to say least favorites or like which ones I didn't like, because I wasn't paying attention by that point. Yeah, because I was physically reading these guys and not really focusing on audiobooks this month, that's all I read, which is not a lot, but maybe I'll read another. I really, really hoped to read more vampire books this month. I was just having a vampire September, and I didn't. I really want to read Empire of a Vampire by G. Kristoff so bad, and I haven't. It's tragic. It's truly tragic. So yeah, these are all of the books that I read in the month of September. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope that this comes off as like a vampire, Twilight vampire, Rosalie Hale kind of look. Don't tell me down below though. Let me know if you've read any good vampire books lately and recommend them to me. I think there's a book called The Last Girls or The Lost Girls by somebody, which sounds like it's John Tucker Must Die but vampires. I've never seen John Tucker Must Die. And I pre-ordered it, but it's not here yet because book shortage and I probably waited too late to pre-order it, but I'm hoping to read that soon. And yeah, so let me know. Good vampire books down below. And I hope you all enjoyed it. I will see you whenever I do my next video. I'm going to be doing a October TBR on Thursday, I think. So yeah, stay tuned for all of my fun attempts at outfits that I'm doing for the month. And I will see you all whenever I do my next video.